Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday. Welcome to Transformation Healing Podcast. I'm your host, Riya Wang, a certified transformation healing coach. I help my clients through transformation healing to connect with the unique power, transcend the limitation, and bring back the confidence, passion, joy with best version of the self. I have been travel around the world to learn and share how healing can transform our lives. In this podcast show, I have invited all of my guests from all over the world. They come to here to share the inspiring stories, knowledge, wisdom to all of you that can help you bring you better joy in your life. Today, I'm so excited. Today, my guest, Dr. Michelle, is the international speaker, best-seller author, award-winning filmmaker, and the founder of Second Chance Secrets. Dr. Michelle, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's so honored to have you.
Thank you, Riya. I'm very, very happy to join you on your podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle. I see you have, so Dr. Michelle is guided a powerful woman to recreate the life after the loss through the coaching, spiritual healing. What is the psychomedic?
Psychosomatic. So remember we were talking just before this show about the body and how the body seems to have a mind of its own. So the body does, and part of our goal is to learn how to read the body because it tells us things. And so psychosomatics gives me background knowledge to help you to read what's going on with your body by looking at the body and seeing how it speaks to you, not only in pain, but also in the way in which you hold your body, or even the shape of your face can say something about who you are.
Wow, that sounds powerful, Dr. Michelle. Yes, I think a lot of time we just talk about the transformation healing. So what does really healing meaning? Can you explain a little bit? What does, I think I go through with all of the healings journey and also interview many people in this show. So we always talk about the transformation healing. What is the simple explanation can help people to understand what does that really meaning of transformation?
Well, in this moment, for me, the analogy of sculpting, of bringing the image or the sculpture out of a block of marble, you chip away all the things that are not who you are so that you can finally shine as this true, authentic, spiritual being that you are, that you came into this world to be.
Yes, we said we are all spiritual beings living in this physical body, then come to this world to experience our life, right?
So when we come into this life and we survive through childhood, it's like these other things get attached to us like barnacles on a boat that prevent us from being who we are, that kind of compress us and restrict us from flowing into our true natural self. So the healing process is chipping away those barnacles.
I know it's a healing process. It's a step by step. It's a journey. It's not just a destination. I heard many people say, "Oh, I go through so many healings, but why I'm still feel the same way like the before?" So what that you will be answered with that question if people say that?
That they've done so much healing and they're still struggling because it's the life journey. That's why we're here. Maybe once you finish that, you don't need to be here anymore. I don't know. The other part of it for me is learning to accept the parts of yourself that you're still trying to fix, you know.
Yes.
That, maybe there are gifts in this. I teach my clients that oftentimes the things that we struggle with maybe gifts or maybe advantages that we just don't, we're seeing them in the wrong way. We're seeing them as impediments when they can actually change us for the better or empower us.
That's beautiful. I just love the way how do you explain so clear. And I just look at you, how calm and how confident than there to speak this. I think just that energy bring a lot of grounding come to here. So can you tell us where you come from? Because we just jump in with our topic. I usually ask my guests. So tell us where you come from, because some people from Ireland, some people from Norway, it's different. So where you come from, Dr. Michelle?
Right now, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area in a little town called El Cerrito, which means little hill. There's a hill not too far away from us that I guess is what the town was named for. I originally came from the East Coast in the United States, from New Jersey, and grew up in New Jersey, lived in New York for many years, New York City, and then eventually moved out to San Francisco. And I've been out here for more than 20 years.
How do you enjoy here?
Well, every year it gets more and more like the East Coast because I think they're all moving here. When I came in the beginning, it was much quieter and people were more laid back. Now, the traffic, it seems a lot like the East Coast. People are more aggressive, they're more vocal. But I love it here. I love it here because the awareness is much more connected to spirit. People can talk about spirit. They can talk about synchronicities. They can talk about channeling and divine intervention. And nobody looks at you like you're crazy out of your mind. It's part of the culture here. So that's lovely.
Yeah, that is beautiful. That's what I love about here is the diverse of the cultures. People very open mind. So we're living in the same Bay Area here.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Fortunately, have a lot of people open mind to talk about it. Is that I think sharing is also is part of the healing. If
yes, I agree. I agree. In fact, right now I'm involved in Toastmasters. So I do a lot of speaking, and I won the club contest and then went on to the division contest. And now I'm going on to the district contest. And it's what I've discovered is that speaking is another way of healing. Yes. If you embrace the possibilities. And right now I'm doing a speech on my mother. And we talked a little bit about mothers. Yesterday or the day before was Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. My mother is channeling to me as I write this speech. I wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and there she is sending me more insights.
Congratulations on your speaking engagements.
Thank you.
So yes, I think speak your voice, then to share your stories. That's how we bring more healing to the world. So we all go through with the challenge in our life. So here is in the show, I always want my guests to share how do they overcome from the challenge to become transformed who they are today. So tell us a little bit about what is your big challenge that transformed you become today.
One of the biggest transformations happened when I went home when my mother was dying. And she was this amazing Renaissance woman, artist, toy designer, who actually sold to major toy companies in New York City. She didn't ever make $1 million, but it was like she was so immersed in her passion and living her passion. And when she was dying, we were going through some of her stuff in her studio. And I picked up one of her designs, a photocopy really, and I asked her if she needed it anymore. And she looked at it and she said, "Oh, I guess I'll never finish this project." And in that moment, I got what deadline means. I got what life and death means, all in that one moment. And that set me off on a journey to make 3 documentary films, 3 award-winning documentary films, Secrets of Life and Death. And that has guided all of my actions since then. That my purpose, my message is to wake other people up to their life purpose, their mission, why they're here. I mean, wouldn't it be a waste to live this glorious life and not fulfill the reason why you came here?
Yeah, I think talk about the life and the death, like we just shared, like my mom passed away last week. So it's a week ago. I have people tell me, say, wow, you are already good, come out doing your work, you're smelling on the outside. I said, yes, yes, we have, I feel this deeply, the grief and the sadness in my heart. But in the same time, unfortunately, I understand, go through this healing, how we bring more energy, bring more smell in the world, help more people. I think that bring mom more love and peace. She wouldn't to worry about where I still here, right?
Right, exactly. In fact, that reminds me of one time I was working with a client, and she felt guilty about not making sure that her father had a better dying experience, although it was his choice. And she had been beating herself up for 5 years. And we talked, and I said, what do you think your dad wants for you? And that's when it dawned on her, oh my gosh, I must be making him feel awful to be feeling bad about myself. And she shifted. Sometimes it can take something like that realization in that moment. Oh, I don't need to feel guilty anymore. I don't need, in fact, not only do I not need, but it's hurting somebody else. And I can let that go.
In the past few years, I was traveling, go through Tibet, India, go through so many different culture ceremony of the death. So in Tibet, the culture, one of the culture, when people die, family die, they will bring the body to the higher mountains, give to shaman. Then they cut off the body, then feed the birds. So the meaning of sacrifice the physical body to free the soul. So that's the meaning that your physical body is already gone. So you just, doing some sacrifice that bring more life in that. Some cultures is that. And I remember another one is when I was in India, Oshu Center, when one person died in the family, then people around there, we just dancing, singing for hours. So after that, then bring the body to burn. So at that moment, I was feel like, oh my gosh, if I die, I want my kids or my family to celebrate and move forward to next life. So that tears, I think even now I can feel that emotions. So, that tears is so fun. I cannot use the words to explain.
The emotions, of course, are part of the body, and you need to acknowledge that and allow those emotions, not hold them back, not be strong, because when you do, those emotions don't go away. They're still there. They're just hanging out in your cells, and they will burst out probably in the worst possible time, because it's when you're stressed and you're overwhelmed that emotion will just overflow. So you actually want to let it release. I've worked with my clients and always coach them to set aside time every day to allow yourself to grieve. Create an altar, set a picture of the loved one that you have lost, and talk to them and express your feelings. And that way you give yourself that container for allowing your emotions to flow, and then they don't get stuck.
That's wonderful suggestions. I think it's the question is here, Michelle. Yesterday, I have a client come to here. She asked, I usually bring the client's question come to my podcast, then to get the answers for the people who's listening. I found out that it's wonderful, it's real, and the people really, you guys here really help people to deliver what can really help them. She come to there. She said she moved to the new town just a few months ago. Then she moved to the new town, wants to close the family members, but she feel like the family member really not close to her. She feels a distance. She feel everything is superficial. Then she feel the lonely and feel the depressed. So in that situation, so what is the best way we can change that?
How can we change that? So she moved to a new place to be closer to her family, and they're not open to her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she feel like the family there, yes, they are just greeting her, but it's not really close.
It's not really close.
Yes.
Part of it is being willing to be close to them, even though they're not close to you. In other words, bring your sensitivity, sensibility, and curiosity to the situation. A mentor of mine just told me the story, I guess it was the other day, about her mother, who was an overwhelmed, shut off woman who never said, "I love you," unless she was told to by her therapist. And my coach, my friend, she started ending every phone conversation with, "I love you, Mom." And eventually her mother started saying it. And then one time she was in a rush, my friend, and had to get somewhere, and her mother was afraid she would leave without saying, "I love you." And she jumped in and said it first.
Wow.
And their whole relationship healed. Sometimes you have to be the model. You have to accept your feelings. And instead of feeling rejected, I mean, the rejection will only invite more rejection, but when you show up with love, then you will attract love back. But that doesn't mean that you need to do certain things for yourself that help you to feel loved. If you feel unnourished, you need to take care of yourself. And that begins with you loving you.
Absolutely. As like what I tell her is all started the self-love. When you have the heart knowing how do you love yourself, then you vibrate with that love. So your environment, your energy, people look at you, they want to hang out with you, right?
Absolutely. You're right. That's exactly right. People are attracted to love, not sadness, not despair. They are attracted to love.
Yes, the love is so interesting. Talk about the love. Talk about, I think everything is started with your heart center, with your self-love. Because many of us, even myself when I was younger, I looking and craving the love outside. My biggest fear was worry about no one will love me, because when I was abandoned when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
So, but looking for outside the love, that's the heart always still in there, it's rocking, never always concerned where's the love. Is that's the love? Always have some chatty voice behind that. So for some people still in that stage, what is the best way can overcome to become more self-love? They can practice every day, Dr. Michelle.
For me, the best way is spiritual practice. Then through spiritual practice, whether it's meditation or it's meditative dance or ecstatic dance, or whatever practice you use to get into the moment, into the state, that's when you invite the universal love, when you invite the divine love. And that love is always there. When you learn to open your heart to that love and feel yourself as worthy of that love, that's when you fill your container. That's when you feel worthy. And then you got to work on the mind. because the mind's gonna, does really give you a hard time, because it's all that programming from early childhood when you didn't feel good enough, you didn't feel loved, you didn't feel safe, or whatever. You have to change time after time after time when you get those negative thoughts. Although what I do is I become curious first. Oh, where did that thought come from? And oftentimes what I do is I write it down so that I get it out of my head and onto paper, so that I can look at it and say, oh, wait a minute, I don't need to think this. So that's one of the tools I use, is writing.
That's beautiful. I just reading this morning when I wake up, I was just reading something on myself when I wake up with some feelings. Then I was thinking, oh, where's this feeling come from? Why is that? So like you said, I think you said is like when you really unsure what the emotions there that bothered you, maybe just write down, that help you to observe what is emotion come from, right?
For a long time, I would wake up in the morning. I think that my father abandoned me for a matter of months. He was transferred to Japan when I was only 2, and I had really a close relationship with him. So to this day, I wake up in the morning and it's always the worst part of my day, because I wake up with sort of that little bit of panic. And instead of trying to shift it or repress it, I find that writing it down and just letting it out is much better. It takes a lot less energy when you release the emotion rather than when you hold it back. And not have judgment about it either. I mean, come on, I was a 2-year-old child and my father left, and my mother was trying to move a whole household of children over to Japan.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that stories. I think many of us feeling be abandoned with many different reasons.
That's it.
Right? Like you said, when you're 2 years old. And then when I was born, next day, then be sold to another family. So that's the abandoned issues. And one time I talked with one of my clients. He said he feel first to be abandoned when he was 17 from the first love. The girlfriend was dumped him. Then he feels so abandoned, and for years to overcome with that fear.
Okay, so Riya, if that were my client, I would be curious about when his first abandonment was, because that kind of response to a relationship, that he would have that much attachment to that person and feel that hurt, that comes from childhood in my book. That's the child feeling unworthy and unloved. That's, yeah.
Do you think most of the childs have that feelings?
That's my experience. I worked with people around grief and loss for years. And when we worked on their grief, we always went back to the childhood. I didn't force them to. That's what came up. That in grieving, in fact, that's one of the gifts of grief, is that it gives you an opportunity to clean out the attic or the basement or whatever it is that you have, that you've been holding emotions in, because it's like it opens up the lid of your emotions, because you can't hold them in when if you've lost somebody that's really significant, you can't. It's a physiological, natural response to losing somebody close to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, we body is first the signal, then tell you, no matter how stronger your mind wants to be, but the body is just like what I said. Tell you when my mom passed away. No matter I feel the peace, no matter what else, my body I feel so sleepy. I want to sleep all the time. Doesn't have motivation to do anything, so I'm just let go, let's sleep when I want to sleep, then sleep, to heal with that part of that. Like you said, fighting is just make that more worse.
It makes it worse, yes. Or repressing it makes it worse, because then you don't deal with it until later on down the road. What I explain to people about the exhaustion is that literally your brain is having to rewire itself, because now this significant person that's in your life is no longer there. So every time your mind goes down the path, you see something reminds you of that person, then you remember this this void in your life. And the brain actually has to create new networks of neural networks to make a new reality, to accept that new reality.
That's beautiful. Thank you to share, Dr. Michelle. I think all of the audience, if you watch this show or listen this, anytime you go through with the challenging or something, first of all, come back to your heart, come back to your body. Let that rest. Don't get to fight, to observe what is going on, then take a rest. That is the best way, the first step to get the healed with your emotion. Is that what I summarize it? Correct?
That's correct. What I would say is be curious. Allow the emotions, but be curious about whatever is happening. I was thinking of another time in our life when we were doing some renovation in our property, and we had these big, huge contractors with these big machines literally change the landscape of our yard. In a very short amount of time, like in a matter of hours. And when we looked out, my body was in such a state of shock because I couldn't absorb the immensity of the change. And that's just another example of how these bodies, they like a certain amount of certainty and sameness because that's where they feel safe. And when things change, it's disruptive. And it's natural for the body to get disorganized. And it also has the ability to recreate the organization, to create a new organization. But you need to give it time. And sometimes you need to sleep because it takes a lot of energy to do that.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much to come here to share this valuable information and help anybody who goes through with the same situation. They can get a lot of help, go through with the challenge. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. So tell us where they can find you, where will people, if people want to talk to you, they love your work, how do they find you? I know we already posted all of your information on there, but here, what is the best way they can find you?
Well, if they wanted to reach me directly, it's MP for Michelle Peticolas at secretsoflifeanddeath.com. That was the name of my film series, secretsoflifeanddeath.com. And Secrets of Life and Death, there are no ampersands or anything, truncations, it's just spelled out. And the other way that they could connect with me is, let me see if there is a website, releaseandthrive.com, where they can do a guided journey with me to find out what's going on inside of their body. It's a journey that helps them to become more aware. Some of my clients don't even have an awareness of their body. So I say, how do you feel? And they have no idea what I'm talking about. So this will help you to do that and also release stress. So it's very good. So it's releaseandthrive.com or secretsoflifeanddeath.com or my email. I would say my email. The website, that website's a little old, but it's got great stuff in the blog about grief. So definitely check that out.
I bet that's where we have a lot of wonderful tips to help. So thank you. So before we close today's show, any words you want to give our audience who's listening here?
Yes, well, enjoy life. It is a great human adventure. As my spiritual teacher would say, you are a spiritual being having a human adventure. Don't take it too seriously.
That's beautiful. Yes, enjoy the moment, enjoy each day. Power of the now, enjoy the life. Thank you, everybody. So I hope you enjoy today's podcast with Dr. Michelle. I'm looking forward to see you next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.